So in the morning, we started with introducing what project management was, and this is where we stopped. That project management is a combination of skills, tools, and techniques and management processes for the successful execution of a project. So continuing from there, I may have to be a little faster this period. What I would recommend that if you can screenshot the slides, that will help. If you need to jot something, please, I will recommend that you screenshot the slides. That's if you don't have the materials at the moment. But if you do have the materials, maybe we could go alongside together. Now, quickly, what are the importance of project management? The first importance we consider here is that it helps us to meet business objectives. Then helps us to satisfy stakeholder expectations, be more predictable as regards to time, resources, scope, and all of that. It decreases our chances of success, deliver the right product at the right time, resolve problems and issues, respond to risk in a timely manner, optimize the use of organizational resources, identify, recover, or terminate failing projects, manage constraints, example, the scope, quality, schedule, cost, resources, then balance the influence of constraints on the project. For example, increased scope may increase cost or schedule, and also to manage change in a better manner. All of these and many more are all important of project management. Now, in a situation where we have absence of project management practices in place, what will happen? We'll have issues like missed deadlines, cost overrun, poor quality, rework, uncontrolled expansion of the project, loss of reputation for the organization, unsatisfied stakeholders, and then we'll have failure in achieving the objectives for which the project was undertaken. So importantly, it's good that if you want to experience success, then you must set up project practices in place or project management approaches in place. Important note, projects are a key way to create value and benefits in organizations. In today's business environment, organizational leaders need to be able to manage with tighter budgets, shorter timelines, scarcity of resources, and rapidly changing technology. The business environment is dynamic with an accelerating rate of change. To remain competitive in the world economy, companies are embracing project management to consistently deliver business value. So it's not just about personal life or just about getting certification. It's about creating value. Project management is about creating value. Project management is about helping organizations, especially the corporate leaders, to adapt to changes. All right. It helps to keep organizations competitively on the advantage side. So there are several opportunities that as a projectized organization, the organizations start to benefit from. All right. Effective and efficient project management should be considered a strategic competency within organizations because it enables organizations to tie project results to business goals. You cannot come up with a project except it has a strategic alignment with the business goals. Remember, projects are carried out to be included or turned into businesses, all right? Project deliverables are turned into businesses. So importantly, before we carry out any project, it is important that we get to understand the relationship that exists between the project goals or project results and the business goals. So before we start any project, we must have a strategic alignment between project results and business goals. Another thing is that it enables organizations to compete more effectively in their markets. I started this class with trying to establish some informative background that some businesses are actually running without any form of analysis on the market environment or environmental analysis on what is happening. But with the project approach, it is easy for you to run such analysis and be able to compete within the environment. Then another thing is that it enables to sustain the organization and then respond to the impact of business environment changes on projects by appropriately adjusting project management plans. Now, just a way of going through what we learned in the morning, related endeavors in project management. Certain types of endeavors are closely related to projects. They are often a hierarchy of strategic plans, programs, projects, and sub-projects in which a program consisting of several associated projects will contribute to the achievement of a strategic plan. So the first one we mentioned in the morning was program. So what's a program? A program is a group of projects managed in a coordinated way to obtain benefits not available from managing them individually. So that establishes the major characteristics of programs as projects that are interrelated and that are interdependent and must be executed alongside to be able to deliver the strategic plan. Many programs also include elements of ongoing operations. Yes, many programs include many elements of ongoing operations. Like I gave a case in the morning, um, a case of building is a market for a case. You could be building a store or you could be building the power plant while the stores have already been completed and already in use. So the use of the stores becomes the operation. The continuous work of the power plant still remains a project. All right. So for example, the ABQ airplane program include the project to design the aircraft as well as manufacturing and support of the aircraft. Many electronics firms have program managers who are responsible for both individual product release project and the coordination of multiple release over time or multiple releases over time. That's an ongoing operation. All right. Programs may also involve a series of repetitive or cyclical undertakings. For instance, publishing a newspaper or a magazine is a program. Then each individual issue is a project. The production is an operation. Some construction programs are operations but involves many projects. Some construction programs are operations but involves many projects. So we need to also get this. So that's to say, for the business to keep sustainable, there must be operations, perhaps there must be projects in place. In some application areas, program management and project management are treated as synonyms. In other words, project management is a subset of program management. Now, how about we call the sub-projects? Sub-projects are often breakdown of into more manageable components or sub-projects for easy manageability. So when we break down a project into smaller units or smaller components, we call those smaller components sub-projects. And the purpose of breaking down projects into smaller components is to ensure that they are manageable. They can easily be managed. So example, sub-projects such as plumbing and installation of electrical fittings in a construction. Moving forward, we have the project management context, which describes the environment in which projects operate. So the project management context tells about the project environment. And the project environment could be internal or external. So quickly, let's look at that together. The project management context in this case will include the project phases and the project lifecycle, the enterprise environmental factors, organizational process assets, project stakeholders, organizational influences, key general management skills, and socioeconomic influences. We're going to take each of them one after the other, and we will deal with them. Okay, so let's see what we have there. So the first thing we have there is what we call the project phase. A project phase can also be regarded as a segment of a project, or a milestone in the project. That's to say, it is a major component of a project, all right? So take, for instance, you want to cook food. You want to cook soup. One of the phases could be writing down the list of the items you need to procure. Another phase could be to procure it. Then another phase could be to prepare the soup. Then another phase could be to serve this soup. All right. So each of those segments become phases. All right. So a project phase is a collection of logically related activities, usually resulting in the completion of a major deliverable. Organizations performing projects usually divide each project into several project phases to improve management control and provide links to ongoing operations. Note, the deliverables and the phases are part of a general sequential logic to ensure proper definition of the product of the project. So importantly, a project phase is a collection of logically related activities tending towards achieving a major deliverable in a project. All right. Now, quickly, what could be the characteristics of a project phase? Each project phase is marked by completion of one or more deliverables. So before you could say a project or a phase or a segment of a project is a phase, then that means there must be a tangible deliverable that that particular phase must deliver. All right. Before you could say a project, this is a phase in the project, that means there must be some tangible results that that particular group of activities you're grouping together to call a phase. By the time you're done, there's a tangible result that they must deliver, right? The conclusion of a project phase is generally marked by a review of both the deliverables and the project performance to date. So by the time you're done with the phase, you'll do what we call review of both the project deliverable and performance level. The essence of the review is to find out whether the deliverable is in line with the scope definition, and then to check whether the performance to date is in line with things like time and budget. All right. Okay, this is done to determine if the project should continue into the next phase and then dictate and correct errors cost effectively. Note, phase end reviews are also called phase exits, stage gates, or cue points. Now, quickly, let's look at project lifecycle. Please remember that we are looking at the project management context. That's looking at the project management environment. Now, the first one we've looked at is the project phases. The second one we want to look at is the project lifecycle. Why the project phases is a combination or a collection of activities geared towards achieving a particular deliverable in a project. The project lifecycle on its own is a collection of project phases. So project phases are a collection of activities. Project lifecycle are a collection of phases. All right. So the project lifecycle is a collection of generally sequential project phases whose name and number are determined by the control needs of the organizations involved in the project. Project lifecycle generally defines what technical work should be done in each phase. Example, is it the work of an architect, or perhaps is the work of the architect part of the definition phase or part of the execution phase? All of this will be described in the project lifecycle, for example. Then who is involved in each phase? All of this will be described in the project phase. All right. So when we have a phase, which is a collection of project activities, then we'll have a life cycle, which is a collection of project phases. And all of these project phases, or perhaps, yes, all of the project phases collected will be based on the control needs of the organization. That's to say, on the order of precedence. The control needs here talks about the ones that will have the most positive impact in the organization. All right. The control needs here talks about the ones that will have the most positive impact and the ones that will also drive the other phases. For instance, if you have A, B, C, D, E project phases, the question that the project lifecycle will want to ask is, which one in these whole phases will become the most important phase that if it is achieved, it will drive the other ones. So you have to find out the drivers. So the project phases, as far as life cycle is concerned, they are considered as the project drivers, as for the fact that they are going to be producing major deliverables to the project. All right. The project life cycle serves to define the beginning and the end of the project. Deliverables from the preceding phase are usually approved before work starts on the next phase. This is a norm, but it's not always the case. The relationship that exists in the phases will determine the kind of monitoring and evaluation approach we give to it. Now, if it is a sequential kind of relationship, then this definition holds true, which is deliverables from the preceding phase are usually approved before work starts on the next phase. In such case, we are trying to reduce the risk of project acceptance. But in a case where we have overlapping relationship, that means we can actually be running two project phases at the same time. Okay, but the challenge is that the risk could be higher. All right, then if it is an iterative process, then that means it goes to and fro, and we get A done, we get B done, we get A done, we get B done, and this definition may also hold true to a certain extent. All right. So where it is sequential, where it is iterative, this definition of deliverables from the preceding phases are usually approved before work starts on the next phase holds true to certain degrees. But in a case of sequential relationship, it might not be the same. So note, a subsequent phase is sometimes begun prior to approval. That's the case I was talking about in a case of overlapping. All right. So a subsequent phase sometimes begun prior to approval of previous phase deliverables when the risks involved are deemed acceptable. This practice of overlapping is often called fast tracking. So you can actually overlap to manage time more effectively. All right. You fast track to manage time more effectively. All right. What are the common characteristics of project lifecycle? Cost and staffing levels are low at the start and move higher towards the end. So if you're beginning a project, the cost, the staffing, they're always low at the beginning. Then as you move towards, as you progress in the project, the cost and the staffing begin to increase. And then as you move towards the end of the project again, the costing and the staffing begins to drop. All right, we'll look at that using a graph, a simple graph. The probability of successfully completing the project is low at the beginning, higher towards the end as project continues. So if a project is going to succeed, the probability of success is actually very slim at the beginning. But as we push towards and keep adjusting to changes and we keep pushing towards the project, then the possibility of success increases towards the end. All right. Now, another important characteristics we have to note here is that stakeholders' influence is higher at the beginning and progressively lowers as the project continues. Yes. This is so because trust at some point has not been built, communications have not been defined, or perhaps have been defined, but operationally have not become efficient. And then costing levels also at this point, though it is low, but the project sponsor doesn't want to venture into something that is not completely clear about. So that those are issues of not being sure, not being clear about the project gets to form some levels of higher influence by stakeholders. So they can easily tell you stop, wait till I come and all of that. But as the project continues and they have improved of effectiveness and efficiency and communication has become stronger, then the stakeholder influences begin to drop as the project progresses. Now, all of the things we've said can be exemplified in this simple diagram. So you have costing levels versus time. You find with this simple diagram and every other thing that goes by also, like if you put stakeholder influences here, same thing happens is it goes up and then dies off as the project goes. Then costing and staffing low at the beginning, progresses towards the project, gets to the peak of the project execution and then begins to die off. All right. So this is a simple chart of what the project life cycle looks like. All right. Now, quickly, let's look at different types of project life cycles. Project life cycles. We have the one we call the predictive life cycle, just as the name is, predict. Then we have the iterative life cycle, as the name implies, iterate, repetitive. Then you have the one of incremental. We might not be definite of how it's supposed to go, but it becomes progressively incremental. Then you have the adaptive and you have the hybrid model. Now, quickly, for each of them, predictive life cycle, the project scope, time, and cost are determined in the early phases of the project life cycle. They are somewhat predicted from the beginning. So any changes to the scope are carefully managed. Predictive life cycles may also be referred to as the waterfall life cycles. These are the ones that are most common in organizations. All right, so organizations tend to know what will happen before it begins to happen. Then we have the iterative life cycle. The project scope is generally determined early in the project life cycle, but time and cost estimates are routinely modified as the project team's understanding of the product increases. Iterations develop the product through a series of repeated cycles, while increments successfully add to the functionality of the project. So there is to and fro movement in the product releases. All right. Then we have the incremental life cycle. The deliverable is produced through a series of iterations that successively add functionality within a predetermined time frame. The deliverable contains the necessary and sufficient capability to be considered complete only after the final iteration. So take, for instance, if you're building a house, you do your foundation, you're done and dusted with that, then you add blocks successively, you add blocks, then you add lintels, then you add roofing, then you add plastering, or perhaps you add electrical works, put plastering, do your painting, do your fixtures, and all of those things. You just move from one level to another successively and functionally in incremental terms. In development of software, we also see this incremental life cycle in place. So sometimes you see things like maybe Zoom 2.0. The next one you see Zoom 2.1, 2.2, 3.0. So it's trying to tell you that there are extra functionalities that have been added, okay, to the project's product. Then you have the adaptive life cycle. Just as the name is adaptive, that means it's easy for this life cycle to manage change. All right. So adaptive life cycles are agile, iterative, or incremental. So they can be agile, they can be iterative, or they could be incremental. The detailed scope is defined and approved before the start of an iteration. Adaptive life cycles are also referred to as agile or change-driven life cycles. Then you have the hybrid life cycle, as the name implies, combination of different life cycles. So a hybrid life cycle is a combination of a predictive and an adaptive life cycle. So is a combination of waterfall approach and the agile approach to project management. Those elements of the project that are well known or have fixed requirements follow a predictive development life cycle, while those elements that are still evolving follow an adaptive development life cycle. So it's a very simple thing. Now, before we take a short break, let's quickly look at project life cycle versus product life cycle. The product life cycle is a collection of projects. Like businesses are made up of projects. That's what this is trying to tell us. Projects are usually one of the stages in a product life cycle that involves development stage, which will involve design and the launch of the product. Then we'll have the growth stage, which involves the sales and revenue increase. Then we'll have the maturity stage, which involves sales, when sales and revenue level up. And then we'll have the decline due to competitors or market saturation. Now, before I go to talking about influences of project lifecycle, I would like to know if there are questions for me before I proceed. Please, are there questions for me before we proceed? So far, so good. We've learned about the importance of projects. We looked at the related endeavors of projects. And we looked at where project management approaches are absent, what will happen. We looked at important note we need to consider. Then we looked at the benefit of strategic competencies within the organization. We've also returned back to looking at the related endeavors, where we looked at operations, or perhaps we looked at programs and sub-projects. And then we came to the project management context. And in the project management context, we've looked at the project phases and the project life cycle. In the project phases, we say project phases are the logical collection of related activities that are geared towards achieving a major deliverable in a project. And then in looking at the characteristics, one of the things we looked at there is that each project has a phase review. Each project phase has what we call a phase review, at which point we review the deliverable and review the performance to date. The essence of all of this is to determine whether the project should continue to the next phase, and then to find out if there are errors that need to be corrected, and then correct them cost effectively before moving on to the next phase. And we said this phase review can also be called phase exit, stage gate, or kill point, because it is at that point that we decide whether the deliverable at that particular phase is acceptable to move to the next phase, or we should redo the work. Then we looked at the project lifecycle, which we considered as the collection of project phases. Why project phases are collection of project tasks, project life cycles are collection of project phases. All right, and then we also looked at some important information there, where one of them is that the project life cycle defines the beginning and the end of the project, and then the project deliverables from the preceding phase are usually approved before work starts in the next phase. But I said this exists where we have a sequential relationship, where we have an overlapping relationship, then the fast tracking will take over. Okay, in the fast tracking case, that means we can run two phases at the same time, provided the risks involved are acceptable. And then we also looked at common characteristics of the project lifecycle, where we say that cost and staffing at the beginning are low, and then towards, as the project progresses, cost and staffing increases, and then dies off towards the end. Then probability of success of the project is low at the beginning and high at the end. Then things like stakeholder influences gets to be high at the beginning, but at the end of the project or towards the end of the project, they begin to get low. And this is just a typical example of a project life cycle as regards to costing and staffing versus the time that will be used. So there is, at the initiation phase, costing and staffing are low. And then as we progress, it moves and then begins to die down at the final phase or the closure phase. Then we also looked at the project and development life cycles, where we looked at the predictive, iterative, incremental, adaptive, or the hybrid model. At the predictive level or predictive life cycle, the project scope, time, and cost are all determined at the early stage. So it's easy to manage changes. As you call, we can easily accept the changes that are in line with the predictions we've already made, and then we can throw off the changes that we don't want. And we said, importantly, this predictive life cycle is also called waterfall. This is the traditional project management approach that has been in existence over the years. Consciously and unconsciously, organizations use this approach. All right. But as project management keep evolving, we now have what we call the iterative life cycle. You're constantly, why the scope is already defined, you constantly improve on this project by running what we call iterations, repeating series of activities, but not just for repeating sake, but for the purpose of adding value, adding functionality to the project. Okay, adding value and adding functionality to the product of the project. All right. So I gave an instance. I said, for instance, if you're going to be designing a software, all right, you design software like Zoom for a case. You have done the whole process and gave up Zoom 1.0. Then another time you took an iteration and added some other features. Then you came up with Zoom 2.0. Then another time you came up with Zoom 3.0 and all of that. That's an iterative process. And we'll find that most often in software development and some digital products. All right. Then you have the incremental life cycle. The incremental life cycle and the iterative life cycle seems to be the same. But the major difference could be that in the iterative life cycle, we have the product and we are constantly reworking the whole processes again and then adding functionality to the product. But in the case of incremental, we are actually running series of iterations, but in this case, we are adding it based on predetermined time frame. In the iteration, we don't really have the predetermined time frame, but in the incremental, we have already a predetermined time frame that we are working with. Okay, so we say, okay, month one, this is the deliverable we're having. Then month two, or perhaps year one, this is what we're expecting. Year two, this is what we're expecting as to be added to the project. Maybe it's a 5-year project. We have it broken down into years and maybe broken down into months, so that incrementally we could add all of those things. The deliverable then contains the necessary and sufficient capability to be considered complete only after the final iteration. All right. Sometimes you hear some product developers, they say this is the beta, how do you call it again? They say a project is at the beta stage, beta, BETA, yeah. When projects are still undergoing some incremental or iterative processes, they put it on beta till when the final iterations will be run, and then the whole project deliverable will be out. Then we have the adaptive lifecycle, which we call the agile or iterative or incremental. So it is most often built to easily manage change. That's the adaptive approaches. Okay, that's the adaptive approaches. Then we have the hybrid approach, which is a combination of the waterfall and the agile approaches. So in this case, we have one traditional approach, which is the predictive approach. Then we have the evolutionary approaches, where we have the incremental, the iterative, and the agile, or perhaps finally the hybrid. Okay, now the project lifecycle versus the product lifecycle. One of the important statements there is that the product lifecycle is a collection of projects. So a project is just a stage of a product lifecycle. All right. All right. So before I now proceed to OPAs and EF, I'd like to know if there's any question for me. Please kindly ask your questions or make your contributions, and then we'll proceed. We just have 2 minutes for this, and then we'll proceed. Please, any question, you could just raise your hand, and then we'll attend to that. Thank you. Okay, if there is no question, please, can we take 1 minute, stretch out, and then come back? Just 1 minute to stretch out, and then we'll come back. Thank you. Assets, OPAs. So anytime you hear me talk about EFs in project management, I simply mean enterprise environmental factors. And anytime you hear me speak about OPAs, it simply means organization process assets. So we're going to take the time to explain each of them so that we understand how, what they are and how they really influence project life cycles, right? Enterprise environmental factors refer to conditions not under the control of the project team that influence, constrain, or direct the project. Enterprise environmental factors refer to conditions not under the control of the project team that influence, constrain, or direct the project. These conditions can be internal and or external to the organization. The enterprise environmental factors are considered as inputs to many project management processes, specifically for most planning processes. These factors may enhance or constrain project management options. In addition, these factors may have a positive or negative influence on the project. So an EF refers to a condition or conditions not under the control of the project team that can influence, constrain, or direct the project. And they have their sources from either the internal and or the external domain. So whenever you are carrying out the project, it's good to sit down to write down all of those possible things that can affect your project, all of those possible conditions that can affect your project. For instance, if you want to consider the EFs in this training, okay, can someone give me 1, 2, or 3 examples of EFs in this particular project we're having now, in this training? Can you help me in the chat room? What could be the EFs? Just mention like 1, 2, or 3. Let me be sure that we're on the same page. 1, 2, 3. Just type 1. What are the possible EFs? Wonderful. I love this. Data and power. They are wonderful EFs. They can, if you have power, your training continues. If there is no power, you just write message, I'm sorry, my battery is low. Good. Network. Public holiday. Thank you so much. So we could see that these conditions can, bad road. How will bad road affect this project? Actually, bad road is, except you're driving and taking the training, then bad road will be jumping you up and down. Policies, I love that. That's also wonderful. Being ill can also affect the project. Now, it's good we already understand the EFs. All right. How many of us remember that analysis that we used to call PES2 analysis? PES2, like we can actually categorize our EFs using the PES2 analysis. You remember PES2 analysis? How many of us remember PES2 analysis? Terrorism. Oh my God. So terrorism also is an EF to be considered in this project. Okay. Now, if you have other schedules, they can also affect this project. If you have okay, health conditions, someone has already mentioned that. That's also part of that. Okay, now quickly, can we remember that analysis we used to call PES2 analysis? PES2, I just posted it there. PES2 analysis. PES2 analysis. All right, if you can remember PES2 analysis, please can you tell us PESTLE? Can you tell us what each one means? We will use that to do. Thank you so much, Ahmed. I love that. So we can use this PES2 analysis now to identify our EFs even before we go into a project. All right, so let's use the PES2 analysis now. With the PES2 analysis, we can now say, okay, political factors that can affect this project, we name them. Environmental factors that can affect this project, we name them. Social factors that can affect this project, we name them. Technological factors that can affect this project, we name them. Economic factors that can affect this project, we name them. So PES2, political, economic, social, technological, legal, and environmental. Political, economic, social, technological, legal, and environmental. So let's take one. Political factors that can affect this project. Can you list one? Political factors that can affect this project. Political factors or political risks that can affect this project. Can we say one? Political factors that can affect this project. Okay, someone say election. That's awesome. War. That's awesome. So in a prevalent situation, yes, thank you. Policies. Policies can affect this project. If government policies comes up and say there should be no training, as they've said during COVID, and even now, because last Monday, was it last Monday? Yes, this week Monday, it was announced that all trainings should continue online. All right. So now that they said no physical training, the physical training have been affected by government policies. Now, if they wake up again and say no online training, obviously we won't be here. They will also have global influence. Yeah, someone said global influence. Global influence can also affect this project to a very large degree. For instance, we are using Zoom, which is a global technology. If Zoom closes down now, all of a sudden they say Zoom has crashed. Like during the pandemic, there was a time that Zoom crashed because of the heavy load on it. All right. Then also, we have the insecurity in the country today. The insecurity in the country today, right? Okay, so these are part of political factors. And the next one there are economic factors. Please, what could be the economic factors that can affect this project today? Task. Okay, thank you. Task could affect this project. Employment rate, thank you so much. I love that. Inflation, thank you. Lack of money, awesome. So we could see that we are comfortably identifying these things. We're identifying them because we are used to them. So that means that we've been practicing projects and we've been putting EFs in view while doing projects. Someone also said exchange rate, awesome. Demand and supply, great. Currency fluctuation. So all of these are the economic factors that will possibly affect this project. Not only this project, every other project. All right. Okay, now let's look at the social factors that can affect this project. What could be the social factors that can affect this project? Social factors. Social factors. Lifestyle factors, thank you. Beliefs, awesome, I love that. Security, culture, I love that. I love that. Okay, could there be any other one? All of these things we are mentioning, if you pay attention, if you've actually carried out projects on a large scale, yes, religion also. If you carry out projects on a large scale, you find that these things we are mentioning, they are not only to training. I remember a particular period when I was working with telecom then, our telecom facility company. So we were to construct a glow mask or glow site in a particular state in Ogun State. Is it Ogun or Osun State? But one of those states in the west. So we were moved. Someone says social urchins, like area boy issues, which is also true. Okay, so we moved from, I was deployed from here to that particular state to serve as a support staff, project staff to those on site. All of us got there approximately the same time. So we were to have a meeting with the people, village people. That's particularly the heads. Do you know that project was not carried out because of culture? They said that particular place we want to go and do the project. That land is not is a sacred land. So culture denied them the opportunity for that development. Okay. And just like Mr. Ahmed said, I remember also a particular project we did in Nasarawa State. That was an Airtel mask. One of the people that would have made the project not to even proceed was area boys. They came to the site and we felt they were good people to work with. So we gave them work. And all of a sudden, they came up and said they finished the work. Meanwhile, they've not even done 0.5% of the work. As it were, we actually paid them for not doing the work because we wanted to reduce conflict. And these costs are part of the things that should be considered when taking care of your EEF analysis. I think this is clear enough. Then, can someone help us with the technological factors that can affect this project? Technological factors. Technological factors. Technological factors. We are doing well. What could be the technological factors that could affect this project? Tech up rates, all right. Network, awesome. Innovation, lack of latest equipment or updates, thank you. Breakdown of equipment, thank you. Like I was having this class this morning. For those of us that joined very early, you'll notice that there was a time my background went black because power holding took light. So I had to take compulsory 1 minute so that they can restore the light for us to continue. So breakdown of equipment can also affect this project. They will have speed of the Ethernet. Wonderful. Okay. So if we take time to analyze these things, we'll find out that there's EF will present us with a whole lot of risks to deal with. What of the legal factors that can affect this project? State-of-the-art facility. Thank you. When project software license expires. Thank you. So what could be the other factors like legal factors that can affect this project? HSC, health, safety, and environment, awesome. Laws, thank you. Court injunction, thank you. Litigations, patent issues, thank you. And if we are not registered, that could also affect the quality of what we're delivering. Thank you. So all of these things, divorce, legal issues. How is divorce a legal issue? To affect this project now? Is it that if I am divorced, it will affect my psyche and I will not be able to deliver? Okay, but I know you have your reasons. All right. Finally, what could be some of the environmental factors that could affect this project? Environmental factors that could affect this project. Environmental factors that could affect this project. Rain. Thank you. When they took light, it was actually raining like cats and dogs this morning. And those of them that did HR, they also complained that it was still raining the facilitator complained that it was still raining from his end. Environmental factors, attitude of customers, also. Competitors, natural disasters. Thank you. Any other one? Protest. Awesome. Location. Okay. So now, is it easy for me to say that with this little thing we've done, we can say we understand PES2 analysis? Lack of proper EIA. Awesome too. With this simple thing we've done on EF, can I comfortably say that we understand PES2 analysis? If yes, please type yes. If no, say no. If maybe, say maybe, and then you tell us the one that is maybe not. So when we talk about all this analysis, there are simple things if we understand the components. All right, if we understand the components. All right, so thank you so much for helping me to explain PES2 analysis using EF as a case study. Now, quickly, these conditions can be internal or external, like we understand from all of the cases we've presented here. EFs are considered as inputs to many project management processes, specifically for most planning processes, right? These factors may enhance or constrain project management options. I'm going to share something with us here. Our management programs, that is our MBA programs, we are meant to start by August, but we are still working on accreditations and all of that. Okay. Now, the only constraint to that project now, or to starting up our MBA, executive MBA, professional MBA, please note, it's not the academic MBA, so that we don't misunderstand ourselves. All right, it's just the accreditation. And we've taken an option to get accredited by international organizations, but there is another challenge. The challenge is that we need NUC approval and what they call the other one? Yes, NUC basically we need an approval or letter of permit from NUC to run distance education program for those institutions that want to accredit us. So if you now look at this, you find that this is a government issue, a legal issue that needs to be taken care of before this project will advance. No matter how prospective, lucrative the project may seem, there are some EFs that must be put into consideration before we proceed. In addition, these factors may have a positive or negative influence on the outcome. So on this basis, men and brethren, please, if there is anybody here working with NUC and you can help us get approval for distance learning, please, we will appreciate. So you can tell us if you have a contact with NUC, or if you know how we can get the approval from NUC, or you are currently working with NUC, please, we would like to partner with you to get this project rolling. All right. Thank you so much, because we will not want to do it. We will not have a situation where we will take 2 years to run an MBA program. At the end of the day, the certification is not accepted in Nigeria, and the people doing the program are mostly Nigerians and Ghana. So if it is not accepted, that will not make much value to the people coming for it. So we want to make sure that we gain the acceptance approved before we proceed. All right. So EF is a major challenge to that particular project commencement right now. Okay. Okay. Now, EFs internal to the organization. So like we've already mentioned, the following are internal to the organization. EFs internal to the organization. We have organizational culture, structure, and governance. Examples include vision, mission, values, beliefs, cultural norms, leadership style, hierarchy and authority relationships, organizational styles, ethics, and codes of conduct. They will have geographical distribution of facilities and resources. Examples include factory locations, virtual teams, shared systems, and cloud computing. And they will have infrastructure. Examples include existing facilities, equipment, organizational telecommunications channel, information technology, hardware availability, and capacity. Then we'll have things like information technology softwares, which examples may include scheduling software tools, configuration management systems, web interfaces to other online automated systems, and work authorization systems. Then we'll have Resource availability too, which may include things like contracting and purchasing constraints, approved providers and subcontractors, and then collaboration agreements. Then we have employee compatibility. Examples will include existing human resource expertise, skills, competencies, and specialized knowledge. All of these are internal to the organization. Then we have those which could be external to the organization. Okay. The ones that could be external to the organization will have things like the marketplace conditions. Example include competitors, market share, brand competition or brand recognition rather. Then we have trademarks. The social and cultural influences and issues can also affect organizations or organizational projects. And this may include political climate, codes of conduct, ethics, and perceptions. Then we have the legal restrictions, which include country or local laws and regulations related to security, data protection, business conduct, employment, and procurement. Then we have commercial databases. Examples include benchmarking results, standardized cost estimating data, industry risk study information, and risk databases. Then we have academic research, which may include industry studies, publications, and benchmarking results. Still on EFs external to the organization, we have government or industry standards. Examples of such include regulatory agencies, we have the regulatory agencies and standards related to products, production, environment, quality, and workmanship. Then we have the financial constraints, which include currency exchange rates, interest rates, inflation rates, tariffs, and geographic location. There are physical environment elements, which include things like working conditions, weather, and constraints. Now, one of the things we encourage in project management before you go into project, in the planning phase, in initiation phase as well, it's important to do environmental analysis. No matter what, please do environmental analysis. The environmental analysis is not only going to present to you the environmental impact assessment report, but it will also give you total feasibility on the possible characteristics of the environment you're going to do the project. Okay, so if there are observations to be made, if there are assumptions to be made, if there are risks identified, the environmental analysis will help you put up mitigations before coming in. If not, you can lose your life and lose the project. And I'm talking via experiences. Some times ago, while I was still in the telecom, there was this project that we were to do in Akwa Ibom. I think it was then it was Zen, Airtel, Zen. They were still answering Zen then. Now, the project came and I was supposed to go assist on site, support, project support. But unfortunately, I think I was engaged with something else. I couldn't go at the predetermined time. But the project manager, the main project manager, was beaten black and blue, was rushed to hospital, and then from hospital, he resigned from the organization. Now, what happened? He went to the project site, and the area boys come on board. You know those people you call the social urchins. They come on board to ask for what belongs to them. And the young man said to them that he has already seen the village heads and all of those people, which is normal. If you're going for a project in any environment, you must go for what we call the facilitated workshop, where you meet with all the people in the community. But it was like the village heads did not see the youths, so the youths were coming regularly. So they came the first time, came the second time, and they told him that if we come here the third time, you will not like yourself. He thought it was a joke, but it wasn't a joke because they actually came to site, beat him up, destroyed everything he has done, and then from the site, he was picked, rushed to the hospital. From Kwaibom, he was taken to Port Harcourt. From Port Harcourt, he redeployed back to Lagos, and from Lagos, resigned. All right. So all of those physical, environmental elements, social elements regulations, they need to be put into consideration for your project to actually succeed. All right. Organizational process assets are the plans, processes. Okay, we are done with EF. Now, before I proceed, is there any question for the Son of Man? We have taken 58 minutes out of our 2 hours. Our time is running so fast, and I need to finish this. Okay, please, is there any question for the Son of Man before we proceed? Please, if I should proceed, kindly type 1 in the chat room. If I should proceed, kindly type 1 in the chat room so that we can be a little more faster. If I should proceed, type 1. All right, thank you so much, Mr. Emmanuel. Good to see you here again, Mr. Emmanuel. Thank you so much. Thank you for coming around. Okay, so, the first time we dealt with PES2 analysis, but this time around, we're going to be dealing with SWOT analysis. Now, if you look at all of the things we are saying, we are just combining several analyses together, like we are not putting focus on them, but the illustrations we are giving is helping us understand them better. Now, if I were to be teaching business management, I would have outlined all the steps for environmental scanning. I would have outlined all the steps for PES2 analysis and all of that. But in this case of project management, we're actually looking at the applications of it. So somehow we use the application to explain the principles, right? We use the application to explain the principles. Now, EF, we used PES2 analysis to discuss EF. In the OPA, Organizational Process Assets, we are going to use SWOT analysis. SWOT, you know SWOT? You remember SWOT? If you remember SWOT, please help me type the full meaning in the chat room. If you remember SWOT, please help me type the full meaning in the chat room. If you remember SWOT, please help me type the full meaning in the chat room. So we're going to be using SWOT analysis in analyzing OPAs or understanding OPAs, right? So OPAs are the plans, processes, procedures, policies, and knowledge bases specific to and used by the performing organization. These assets influence the management of the project. Okay. So someone says strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. If you agree with him, please say, I agree. Thank you so much, Mr. Pius. Please, if you agree with Mr. Pius, say, I agree. If you agree with Mr. Mensah, say, I agree. If you agree with Mr. Emmanuel, say, I agree. If you agree with Ahmed, say, I agree. For people like Ahmed, I'm still waiting for my Salah RAM. But I know he will tell me now that the distance is far, even when we have technology. And we gave people like Ahmed holiday so that they can send our Salah listing. But he didn't. With the whole technology that is on board. Okay. All right. So since we've agreed that this is what it means. Now let's try to use SWOT to understand OPA. Now look at the definition. Is here a definition? Okay, look at the inclusions so that we can understand it better. OPA includes all your plans. Now, if you bring out your plan, you find out that your plan is composite. It is not, your plan is not just one thing. Your plan is a makeup of things. Now, feel free. Can someone help us? What are the plans we have inside a project plan? Can someone help us? What are the possible plans we expect? No, I said this plan we are looking at here is composite, all right? So if we say plans, it's like generic. Now, when we say plans, give me some examples of plans we expect in a project plan. Can someone help me, please? Then also, someone should help us with processes. Okay, someone said WBS, work breakdown structure. Okay, so work breakdown structure is an element of a scope plan. So I think I will accept a scope plan. All right, so because WBS is a component of a scope plan. So I have a scope plan from Dr. Anthony Osagwe. Thank you so much. So can someone help us with another plan inside a project plan? Or perhaps when you're making plan for your life, how many plans make up your total life plan as it were till date? Please try as much as you can to use project terms. Budget plan, good. Is someone else with us? Please don't type all at once. Just give us one, two. Be typing it sequentially. Financial plan. All right. Resource plan. Great. So if you begin to look at each of these plans right now, you find out that the possibility of any project to succeed will depend on the quality of these plans. All right, someone says task plan. I love that. The task plan can also be regarded as the scope plan. Someone said the methodological plan. That could also be regarded as the scope plan. Someone said requirement plan. I love that. All right, so that could also be referred to as the um, stakeholder requirements plan. Then we have the work execution plan. Thank you. Material plan or the resource plan. Thank you. So all of these plans joined together will give us what we are generically referring to as plans, right? So now the quality of these plans will be what will determine the outcome, the quality of the product at the end of the day. Someone said reporting plan, awesome, that's communication plan. Someone said timeline, that's awesome, that's what we call the schedule plan. All right. Okay, so the quality of your plan at the end of the day will become a strength or a weakness. If your plan is of high quality, then it becomes a strength. If it's poor quality plans, then obviously it becomes a weakness. All right. The same thing applies to your processes. All right. So you have high quality processes become strengths, low quality processes, they become weaknesses. The same thing to policies, the same thing to procedures, the same thing to knowledge bases. All right. That's very, very important. All right. So quickly now, as regards to OPA, can we do or can we identify all the possible OPAs that can affect this project we are doing now, this training we are doing? Can we identify all of the possible OPAs that you think IPM should have, which can affect this project, this training project? Please, the floor is open. My eyes is on the chat room to see who is going to be the first. What are the possible OPAs that can affect this training? Okay, someone says time plan. So let's basically say schedule. So the training calendar can affect it. All right, next one. Thank you so much, Mr. Ghost Power. Behavioral knowledge, that's awesome. Course materials, communication plan, great. All right, any other one? Financial plan, awesome. Any other one? Okay. Thank you so much for your contributions. Resource, thank you. I was just expecting that. So resources could also affect. And there are other things that could affect this project. The environment, the policies within the institute, dispositions, that's still part of the behavioral knowledge. All of this count. All right. Now, can we now try to equipment? Thank you. Can we now try to put these things in as a SWOT? So now you're going to tell us, although this is a case study, right? So tell us all the things you perceive as the strength of IPM for training as a training organization. Can you identify them? The strength of IPM. Okay, someone says knowledge. All right. What other thing do you think would be a strength to IIPM? What else do you think would be a strength? What do you consider to be IPM strength? Someone said timeliness, the facilitators, that's human resources. Okay, thank you. So there could be quite a number of things to say. What of our weaknesses? Now, what are the weaknesses of IIPM? Weaknesses. IPM weaknesses. If you don't tell us, I will tell you. So IPM weaknesses, I see how people who have attended our classes like 4 or 5 times here. Okay, someone says, okay, let's separate them now. Can you just type weaknesses, then you weakness or weaknesses, then we can now know that you are now saying, okay, weaknesses. Okay, so what are the weaknesses? Somebody has typed weaknesses. So let's start listing the weaknesses. Weakness number one, payment before materials are given. Okay. Okay, so to Mr. Ahmed, IPM should do something about that. Okay, someone says our weakness also, free session is a weakness. Okay, thank you. Okay, weaknesses, not chartered. Okay, IPM as a training and certification institute, not chartered. Okay, but I don't think that should be a weakness because we are not a government agency. Okay, thank you. Is there any other one? Okay, now somebody can type opportunities and now tell us, what do you think the opportunities will have in IPM? What do you think could be the opportunities? Opportunities, somebody just type opportunities and then list all the opportunities. Global influence, all right? Opportunity, all right. So shall we go now? Opportunity. Opportunity number one. What opportunity? Global network, thank you. So opportunity number one, global network. Opportunity number two. Brand building, thank you. Become a master at your field. Building a viral nation, thank you. So you see, we have opportunity. Skills update, we have opportunities. Okay. Large turnout due to free attendance. Oh, this man must be a businessman. Mr. Damilola, you must be a business developer from your mother's womb. Okay. Wealth creation, recognition, value importation. Thank you so much. All right. So what could be the threats to IPM? Threats. Somebody type threats so that we can begin to mention them. Threats. What do you consider as the threats? Threats. Other training organizations. Thank you. Other training organizations. Thank you. Competition. Thank you. Government. I love that. Thank you, because now they are holding us from starting our MBA program, so they are a threat. Okay. Which other one? Policies. Thank you. Technology. I love that. Resources. Market share. Thank you so much. All of these are wonderful. All of these are wonderful. Now, how many of us will agree with me that even the customers, the clients that we have, they are also threats to us? Our customers are also threats. Now, how are they threats? If we don't manage them well, they'll become a threat. But if we manage them well, they become an asset. That means they could be an asset to us and they could become a liability to us. All right? They could become an asset to us and they could become a liability to us. And I'm going to share a very simple experience that happened within the week. In fact, 3 experiences that happened within the week. One of the experiences, someone needed or submitted his, he did the program with us. I think he's here today also. Mr. David is also here. So he submitted his certificate to his organization. For verification, the company had to contact us. The organization had to contact us. It was a very easy process. Okay, so they wrote to us. In fact, they called us to verify if so person did a training with us. And then they sent an email, scanned the certificate and sent to us, of which we verified. And the person in question is also chartered by CIMC USA via IIPM, both chartered as an EI professional and chartered as a fellow. So they had to write to CIMC for such also, which was wonderful, seamless, no issue, all right? I'm just trying to talk about how customers could be assets or how customers could be liabilities. Now, there was another person who happens to be a general in the Nigerian army who did the same course, emotional intelligence, also chartered by CIMC. Now, he was pursuing a particular opportunity, and very seamless too. Certifications were verified, and he called and told us that, okay, finally got the offer, all right? And we congratulated him. Now, the same last week, somebody who is an international student called and was very angry. What was the issue? He went for a contract, and the organization he couldn't verify his certifications because he said he couldn't log into the CIMC website at the moment, and then the lapel, his professional pin, got pulled off. So for those of us that were members, I actually wrote a personal mail yesterday so that we can correct that issue, pulling off of the lapel. So he said because the lapel pulled off and he couldn't verify his certificate at the instant, that they disqualified him. I was like, what do you mean? You should have written to us or written to CIMC, any of the organizations you write to, or you give our details to the organization. We will provide the necessary verification in a twinkle of an eye. We don't take verification as a simple matter. We don't take it light. If you write for verification, within 1 hour, you'll get your response. Okay, because it's a very serious thing to us. And because it's part of customer relations, it's part of turning customers to assets. All right. Now, I was angry with this person because I was speaking with him. I was very angry. I said, how can you lose an opportunity because your lapel fell off and you couldn't verify? Does it mean that you don't have an email? You don't have? He said, no, that they didn't give him time for all of those things. All they wanted to prove is that he was a professional. I said, well, you were a professional. You have your certification. All you needed was us to confirm that. So what's that? Now, I got so angry that my anger started rubbing off on the person. Okay. And the person said, I came up to present a case for you to bring solution, and you are now blaming me. I said, I'm not blaming you. It's just that you were not proactive enough to take the opportunity. I don't see, I've been a consultant for how many years? For years upon years, over 10 years. I've never for once been denied of a contract because I was not wearing a pin or my certificate was not, in fact, I've never even had a case where I was said, okay, verify your certificate, but I know in some organizations they do so, right? So if I had continued with my anger, perhaps I would have turned that customer to a violent customer, but I had to pause. I said, no, myself and this person, we are not on the same pace, all right? Possibly this is a starter, so I shouldn't treat him as though he's already an existing professional. So I had to quickly write to CIMC, and I copied him in the mail. And I know he was angry, but at the end of the day, he replied the mail. I was like, thank you for doing a follow-up on this. And I know there's going to be a positive result. Of course, there's going to be a positive result. It wasn't up to 24 hours, and CIMC replied his mail, which we also copied him, okay, on the reason why he was unable to log in. And that was concluded in a twinkle of an eye. Now, do you know the funny thing? There are some people in this class that was recommended by the same person. But assuming we had things fall apart, I'm sure by now he would have become some kind of terror to us. And say, those people, they don't listen. Those people, all right? So in OPAs, if you don't, using SWOT analysis as a case, if you don't treat your customers well, or perhaps build better relationship that will build them up as assets, they will turn out to become liabilities. You can have 12 million liabilities in your database thinking that you have customer base. You don't have customer base. You only have people that will always feel like, what is this? Why is this sending us email? All right. So it's important we get to also understand that customers can also be threats. So to avoid them being threats, please make sure you have good customer relationship management strategy, procedures, policies, and all of that. All right. Now, with this being said, can I say in a little way that we have somewhat understood what SWOT analysis is all about? Please, if yes, type yes. If no, type no. If maybe, type maybe. All right, thank you so much, Mr. Ahmed. Does this simple application help us to understand SWOT? Okay. Now, before I leave this matter, because this matter to me is a serious matter, this person I'm talking about, he said this was what a whole lot of opportunity he was waiting for, but it slipped off on, I don't know how to say it now. Please, I will recommend, if you are a startup consultant, or you want to go into consulting, IPM is open for you. If you need coaching, mentoring, and all of that, please feel free to contact us before you go for your proposals, defense, and all of that, so that if we have something to share with you, we can share with you. And amazingly, the truth is, some of the organizations you want to go to might be organizations that we already know. So it will become easy to get it a walkthrough or walkover. For instance, in this class, as we are talking right now, there are people in this class from different organizations. The truth is, a project that you might be handling might be from one of the organizations represented here. So that makes it easier. So all those opportunities for mentoring, coaching, and networking, please explore them. Explore them before going into all of those things. Because at the end of the day, I felt like if he had asked questions before going for day in, day out, we receive questions, emails from several of our trainees who want to go for proposals, who want to go for defense, who want to go for training, and they ask questions. Okay, how do you think this should be done? This is how I want to do it. Do you think it's right? And we have a whole lot of professionals advising on those things at no cost, no fee. Just because you are trained and certified by this institute, it gives you that legal right or that opportunity to benefit. So don't throw it away. Don't try doing it on your own. We are here to help. Because the next time somebody will call me and tell me I just lost the project, say why? He said, because I forgot my certificate at home. I will personally teleport myself and I will become Anthony Joshua. You can become any other person. When we finish, I will return back. Okay. All right. Thank you so much. As we proceed, if you actually heard what I just said now, as regarding the mentorship, coaching, and networking opportunities, please type 11 in the chat room. If you did not get that part, let me know. Okay? Because we will not have anybody trained by IPM to live here and say, oh, you'll be comfortable telling me you lost opportunity. How will you lose opportunity? For what? Okay, organizational process assets continued. They may be grouped into two categories. We have processes, policies, and procedures, and then we have organizational knowledge bases. So if you look at it, we have processes, policies, and procedures. Then we have organizational knowledge bases. The processes, policies, and procedures tends to be technical. Then the organizational knowledge bases tend to be much more of the soft side. So the experiences your organization have, the trainings your organization have, and the coaching, the mentorship your organization have, the relationships your organization have, all of those get to form the organizational knowledge base. Now, let me quickly say that if you are in an organization that does not support training and development, you're already on your way to doom. Your career is already crashing and you do not know. If you are in an organization that does not support learning and development, either directly or indirectly, then you have a responsibility to make sure that you are completely in charge of your own development. Because some organizations don't really care whether you're trained or not, doesn't care. Their own is get work done. And let me be very true with us. If you are working in an organization that does not pay attention to learning and development, you are like a generator running with fuel and never getting refueled. One day, you're not refueled, your oil is not refueled, your fuel is not refueled. One day, you'll just find yourself knock. You just hear, pack, career, gone, business, closed. So you going for training and retraining is like putting the necessary plugs, putting the necessary fuel, putting the necessary oil, just to make sure that you are at the top of your performance. All right? And I will also share this with us. There had been this debate in organizations, especially in the HR domain, The debate is, put this in order. People, systems, and processes. Which one should come first? Can you help me arrange that in order? People, or perhaps processes, systems, and people, or people, systems, processes. Which one do you think should come first? How do you think this should be arranged? I just typed it there. How do you think it should be arranged? Is it people, systems, processes? Is it systems, processes, okay, someone says it's people, processes, systems. All right, thank you. Can I have another suggestion, please? Okay, someone said people, processes, system. All right. Thank you. Someone said people. Oh, we're all saying the same thing. Processes, system, people. Thank you. At least somebody is changing it. Okay. People, systems, and process. Okay. All right. What I may say now may not really be believable by most people, but I need to pay attention. In human resources, we can comfortably say people, processes, and systems. But in project management, it is not so. In project management, we have systems, processes, and people. We have systems, processes, and people. Systems, processes, and people. Systems, processes, and people. People are the last things in this order. And somebody asked why, and I'm going to explain. There is no doubt that people are the ones driving the systems and the processes. Now, another question I will ask before I proceed to answering why this is so is, should system be people dependent? Systems and processes, should they be people dependent? Should systems run because people are there, or systems should run with or without people? Should systems and processes be people dependent? Please, should they be dependent or independent? Please, I need to know. If your answer is dependent, type dependent. That means people, systems should be dependent on people, not people dependent. Okay, so someone said not people dependent. Someone said dependent. Another person said independent on people. Now, if we agree that systems should be independent on people, that means people should not be the first thing we should consider. Because why? People work on systems. Systems don't work on people. People work in systems. Systems don't work in people. I will repeat that again. Systems work, or people work in systems. Systems don't work in people. And I don't want us to get confused. You know, when we are developing a business or developing a project, we say initiate a project, then plan the project. All right. Now, if you go to initiating a project, you'll find out that basically what we do in a whole project management process group is just a bundle of system. Okay, we'll have a system that says we should initiate, we should, so we could call that the project management system. The project management system tells us we should initiate, we should plan, we should execute, monitor, and control, right? Then we have in the system processes. We have in the system processes. Now, look at how this works. When you bring people to an organization, you teach them processes so that they understand the systems. That's how organizations work. Organizations have their systems that are independent on people, right? So when you come into an organization, your induction training is to teach you about the processes and the systems. Now, the system contains both the processes and the policies and procedures. So system is much more of both the hard and soft side of the organization. So when someone is coming into a system, he comes into what is already existing, and then he is built, he is constructed, he is trained to fit into the system, not for the system to fit into the people. How many of us have ever gone to the bank to tell them how their operation should run? You are employed in the bank, and you go to the bank and tell them, oh, this is how this bank should run. Okay? No. You go to the bank and run it the way the system defines it. Say people, systems, and processes. Can you go to an ATM machine and collect money before you put your card? There is no way. The system is constructed in such a way that you put your card and the process is being run and then give you a result. So if you look at it, people are, yes, people are the leading ones. We put people into consideration while creating systems, but systems are independent of people. And I would like to say this: if you're a business person, try to or begin to learn how to build independent systems. Begin to learn how to build independency between your systems, your processes, or perhaps your systems and your people. Like I said, the process is involved in the system. So we have the processes, we have the policies, we have the procedures, all of them in the systems. All right. Okay, so that's a little digression, and I need us to get that out. All right, I need us to get that out. You know the reason why people are always thinking of, I want to make money. And on the internet they have different things. People just keep talking about, I want money, I want money, I want money. Do you know why? They want to receive the product, but they don't have a system. Yes, there is a person that is there, but yet there is no system to deliver a product that will give you the value that you need. So if you must be rich, the first thing you must consider is to build a system, not a product, not even people. You must build a system first. That system must contain processes, policies, procedures. And those policies and procedures must combine with people to now give you a product. That product, for it to become much more rewarding, must be built on a sustainable basis. If you heard what I just said now, please say yes. If you did not hear it, say no. If what I'm saying is confusing you, let me know. I will explain it more. My time is running up. Oh, I have 29 more minutes to go. Okay. So just as it were, from our project management perspective, the first thing we are looking at is system. And in the system, the first thing we want to have is policies, processes, procedures, before we have the knowledge bases, which comprise of the people. All right. Thank you for coming. If you learned something, say, I learned something. If you learned something, just type 11. If you did not learn something, just type 00. We'll make sure that you learn something before you go. Now, summarizing organizational process assets, OPAs include any artifact, practice, or knowledge from any or all of the performing organizations involved in the project that can be used to execute or govern the project. The OPAs also include the organizational lessons learned from previous projects and historical information. OPAs may include completed schedules, risk data, and end value data. OPAs are inputs to many project management processes. Since OPAs are internal to the organization, the project team members may be able to update and add to the organization process asset as necessary throughout the project. Now, as part of the people in the project management context, we have the stakeholders. That's those who we are doing this project for. They could be the sponsors, they could be the end users of the project deliverable. At the end of the day, we must understand both parties, the internal stakeholders and the external stakeholders, the direct and the indirect, the primary, secondary, and tertiary stakeholders. We must all understand all of these stakeholders and their role and how to manage them for us to be able to effectively manage a project. So we are going to do something very simple. We are going to have what we call the different kind of stakeholder models, and then we will use just one particular kind of stakeholder model and then analyze this class to find out the major stakeholders for this project, and then the minor stakeholders, or perhaps the direct and the indirect stakeholders. All right. So that's very simple. So we're going to do what we call stakeholder analysis right now. But in this case, we are doing stakeholder analysis with respect to this project training. And the objective of this whole stakeholder analysis is that by the end of this whole thing, you'll be able to understand how to apply stakeholder analysis in your own individual project, right? So training as a case study, we have four types, or four models of stakeholder analysis. Four models of stakeholder analysis, and I will need you to write, please. I will need you to write this. It's in your manual, so if you're going to get the manual, you may not really need to write. But if you need to write this down, please write it down. We have the first set of model we call the influence, the power influence model. The power influence model. Power influence model. That's to say that the stakeholders involved in the project, they have both power and they have both influence on the project. Then the second one is what we call the power interest model. The first one is power influence. The second one is the power interest model. That's to say the stakeholders, they have both power and interest in the project. Then you have what we call the influence impact model. Influence impact model. So that's to say these stakeholders, they have influence, and their influence could bring about an impact which could be positive or negative, right? Then we have what we call the salience model. Salience, S-A-L-I-E-N-C-E, salience, like salience points, salient, important, salience, urgent, salience model. That means that these stakeholders are actually regarded as the most important or top priority stakeholders in this project, right? Okay, so before we begin to take one of the models to begin to analyze each of these stakeholders, can we quickly point out all the stakeholders involved in this training project? All the stakeholders involved. Perhaps let's start with the direct ones. The direct stakeholders. Can we please name all of them? Name all of them. Name all of them. Okay, so someone says IPM, me, and others. Okay. Okay, so we have the IPM team or the IPM management as a case. Then we have the trainees, right? Okay. Those are the direct ones. Then we have the facilitators, okay, which are still part of the IPM. All right, the students, which are the trainees. Could there be any other government? Government, all right, government. Is government a direct, is government in this case a primary stakeholder? Okay, so I think here we've identified majorly three things. We have directly, we have IPM management. In the management, we have the staff, we have the board and all of that. Then secondly, we have the trainees. All right, so those are the two major ones. Okay. Okay, what of the indirect stakeholders? The indirect stakeholders. Can we name the indirect stakeholders? Government. All right, thank you. Government is an indirect stakeholder. CIMC, thank you. Power, like power. Okay. Can we name another one? Okay, government, yes, thank you. So we have government, we have partners, employers of trainees, that's also awesome. Okay, so we have SHRM, CIMC, PCB, they are all part of partners. All right, which other people could be our direct stakeholders? Okay, what if I say infrastructure? Okay, let's say infrastructure providers. Okay, infrastructure providers. Okay, yes. Now I love that. So the infrastructure providers, we have the telecom companies, we have the technology service companies like Facebook, Google that we use for adverts, Instagram and all of that, social media platforms. There you have Zoom also, of course. There you have media infrastructure partners also, like the newspapers, and all of those people make publications in their site, and a whole lot of them. Okay. Now, one thing I want us to do now is specifically can you pick one stakeholder, tell us the influence of the stakeholder, and how we can manage the stakeholder? That's what we are referring to as stakeholder analysis now. We've mentioned several stakeholders. Now, can you pick one stakeholder, tell us the influence of the stakeholder or the impact the stakeholder will bring, and then tell us how to manage the stakeholder? If possible, if typing will take time, you can just raise your hand and then we unmute you, you just go ahead. In 15 seconds, you just tell us, this is the stakeholder, this is the influence, and the influence can be positive or negative, and then this is how you should manage it for better results. Okay. If typing will take long, then let's unmute. All right, please, Mr. Jimmy, in 15 seconds, unmute and let's hear from you.
Yeah, taking for my last project, my core stakeholder is the project sponsor, which happens to be my director.
Okay.
So in that case, I always keep him informed.
Okay, before you talk about the management, what is the consequences? What will be his impact in the project if you do not manage him well?
The impact is huge. In fact, if he makes any decision, the project stops. He has the ability to stop the project anytime, any day.
Okay, so he has the influence and he has the power to stop the project.
The power and the influence to do anything.
Okay, so how did you manage him?
I work with him closely. In terms of communication,
okay,
I ensure that it's not compromised.
Okay, so you had effective communication system.
Yes.
All right. So thank you. All right. So in his project, he had a sponsor who has the power to stop or continue the project, and he used an effective communication system to manage him. All right. So this is a standard to what we are talking about now. Now, with respect to this particular project we are doing now, which is the training project, all of these stakeholders we've mentioned, pick one, tell us their influence, and tell us how to manage them. Someone say trainees, to introduce potential trainees, manage with good customer service. All right, thank you. Another person says, trainees, great influence, management, excellent service and delivery. Okay. Can someone give us another one? Pick one of the stakeholders we've identified, what the stakeholder, the influence that he will bring, and then how we should manage him or her, or manage that particular partner. Zoom, okay. So Zoom is a stakeholder. What would be the impact of Zoom? And how should we manage Zoom? See what I said in, okay. Okay, someone said government, power and influence can be managed by compliance. All right, that's awesome. Thank you. Zoom, great interest, management. Zoom, great interest, management, excellent service. Okay, so how do we manage Zoom? Ensure that your subscription is in place. Thank you. Another person says Zoom, great interest, management, excellent service. Okay, that's the impact they will bring, because failure can hinder transmission. Thank you. Okay, so Mr. Jimmy's hand is up again. All right, so Mr. Jimmy, kindly unmute and let's hear for you.
Yeah, I so much enjoyed the class. In fact, it's very interactive. Talking about Zoom, being the stakeholder and how to manage them. First of all, you need to subscribe, bro. That subscription for 45 minutes, they will cut it. The class will go.
Okay.
All right, that's all.
All right, thank you. So if you don't manage Zoom, Zoom will manage you. In fact, there was a training that took place. The last training, I think the emotional intelligence training, those that took emotional intelligence the last time, there was a training that we had already scheduled for 2 hours, and the facilitator exceeded just by 1 minute the class cut. And that could be part of the impact. So if you don't manage Zoom very well, it could seem as though your service delivery will become poor. All right, so someone say IPM, influence and impact, can be managed by punctuality and effective active listening. Thank you. Thank you and thank you. All right, so Now that we've identified this, can we to some extent say we understand stakeholder analysis? We can be able to identify stakeholders in our project, identify their influences or their impact, and then how to manage them. Can we say that? If we can say that, please, can we type yes in the chat room? If no, we type no. If maybe, we type maybe. All right. I love this. Someone said, Minister of Education. It's a Minister of Education approved the institution by complying with ministry's regulation. I love that. Thank you. Minister of Education is actually a very key stakeholder in IPM, and not just IPM, every other educational institution, be it professional or non-professional. All right, thank you so much for taking the time to understand that. I'm gradually coming to the close of this class right now. Okay. So in the little of what we wrote here, we say project stakeholders are individuals that are actively involved in the project or whose interest may be positively or negatively affected as a result of the project execution or completion. They may exert influence over the project and its result. Like Mr. Jimmy said, his boss has the power to stop or continue the project. And in the same way, if only we understand that all of us are project managers, whether by appointment, by nomination, or by identity. If we understand that, it will help us to manage our workplace supervisors very well. How many of us have heard of workplace politics before? In human resource management, we'll take time to teach that course on workplace politics. I was teaching project management sometimes about a month ago. I was teaching at, it was a national training. Okay, and I was invited to train some people. Part of the people there were ambassadors and all of that. Okay, and in the training, I told them something about workplace politics, and everybody started laughing. And it was then that it dawned on some people that they actually got the appointment due to workplace politics. Politics mustn't be negative. Every one of us are politicians. No, let me not say politicians. If you say politicians, it makes it like professional politicians. No, every one of us, being social beings, we are politicians. Okay, permit me to use it. We are politicians. Okay, we are all politicians. Okay, now let me give you an example of politics now. That person, what is actually politics? Politics is simply managing emotions of people so as to get them to move in a certain direction. Managing the emotions of people so as to get them to move in a certain direction. That's politics. So emotional intelligence will help you become a good politician. Social intelligence will help you become a good politician, right? Okay, now, if politics is all about social science, manipulating the social environment and all of its components to get results, that means all of us are politicians. When you went to do your interview for the work you're doing now, you exhibited some level of political activism that gave you that job, because you started speaking in a way that will attract you or that will attract the employer towards you. You started doing things that made you likable by the employer, whether you like it or not. That is the answer. All of us, every man here is a politician. Every woman is a politician. If you're not a politician, you cannot get married. This is why it sounded funny now. But the truth is, if you're not a politician, you cannot get married. Because we used our political knowledge, political intelligence to be able to woo our wife to ourselves. But the thing is that we are true to them anyway. That's why I say politics mustn't be the wrong side, right? So we have everything in life. We have the positive side and we have the negative side. I'm a good politician and I'm building to become more of a politician. And every one of us, in case you don't know, I'm announcing it to you now that you are a politician. Even God himself is a politician. Have you not heard? He said, thou shalt serve the Lord thy God and shall bless your water. So he needed to arouse some emotions so that you can move in a way that will secure his blessings. Don't you see? Even the devil is a politician. Everyone in heaven, on earth, under, we are all politicians. If you agree, good. If you agree, it will help you to become more politically conscious, because you'll find that training your children deserve or demands politics. Okay. Having a good on-demand politics, but remember, it is the good side of politics. Building up integrity, keeping up to your words, being disciplined, being committed to the vision you've set out to pursue, being faithful to your customers and to your clients. All of these things are just politics. The business world will also have politics. When you are a high performance staff, you're only playing some kind of intelligent politics that will bring your promotion. Something happened some times ago. I was applied to an organization. I think that's the only organization I've ever applied in my life. I was just out of school, and they said I was small, so they couldn't hire me. I think I was still in I think I was 20 when I left school. So I applied to the organization, and they looked at my size and said I was small. So about a year later, they started calling me. Meanwhile, another organization had taken me in. And after a series of calls, emails, and all of that, I decided to visit the organization. I went to the organization. We sat down. They did all the whole interview and all of that. I was just smiling and laughing. At the end of the day, I brought out a wine. Very funny. I bought wine for them. When I got there and they were done the interview, I said, I'm sorry, I'm already engaged. But I just needed to come and see you based on the series of messages you've been sending and the emails. And since I was visiting this direction, I needed to come and visit your organization. And I gave the interviewer a bottle of wine. I said, for all the troubles, take this. And he asked me a question. He said, so why are you giving me wine? He said, no, for all the mails you've been sending, for all the calls you've been putting across, I appreciate you. Take. And when I was leaving, he said something to me. He said, sir, any day, anytime you're ready, we will be here waiting for you. That is politics. And not long, I got a message from my head of department that the social organization needed 10 people who were to work with the organization. This company is an oil processing firm, vegetable oil processing firm. Okay, so they needed 10 people and they needed me to do the recruitment. Did you not see how the politics played? I did not ask them to give me a recruitment job, but they felt like this person, since he's from this department or he studied this course, and then they wrote to my HOD. My HOD affirmed that, yes, this person can serve. And they gave me the job. That is part of politics. When you are busy building networking, you are politicking, whether you like it or not. So now, if what I said made sense to you, just type a little common sense. Type in the chat room, common sense. Common sense. If it does not make sense, just say nonsense. You choose your own. All right. Thank you so much. So let's now round up. So project stakeholders, you need to play some kind of deep politics. And all of these things we are calling politics is all dependent on your stakeholder analysis, how you are going to manage them. See that aspect of managing stakeholders, that's where the politics comes in. Okay, that's where the politics comes in. Oh God, I just remember that an experience that happened now and I'm laughing. When I was in school, I was not the person that had the highest GPA, but I received the letter of the best graduating student from my department. And I tell you the truth, it was all politics. All right, it was all not politics of running from one lecturer to another. No, we made serious impacts in the organization or in the department. We organized different seminars. I started organizing seminars from my undergraduate days. So we organized seminars, leadership, entrepreneurship, and several others. I still go back. My department still calls me back to school. In fact, before the COVID, my school was inviting me to come and run an entrepreneurship program for the whole school, including staff alike. Now, all of those things started with simple politics. What was I doing? I had a HOD who happens to be my project supervisor. And then, for those of us who remember those days that we used to have 15 naira Airtel, if you can remember those days, just type 15 naira in the chat room. Those days we used to have 15 naira Airtel. So I will send my project supervisor, or he was first my staff advisor, and then I was the executive secretary in my department. If he calls me, I will send him 15 naira Airtel, okay? And I was doing that. I never had anything in mind. I was just like, this man is always calling. Let's send him something. And since the 15 naira I have, I will give him 15 naira. Then I increased to giving him 100 naira. I think the maximum I ever gave him before I left school was 200 naira. But it was from the depth of my heart. I was doing it not because I needed anything from him. I felt like his course needed to be, it needed to be given some kind of subscription. That was why I was doing it. Now, when I was leaving school, they wrote that I was the best graduating student. I wasn't the person that had I think I was the second best when it comes to GPA. But I was given my department gave me a letter of recommendation as the best graduating student. Now, they gave me, my HOD called me and said, he wants me to be a lecturer. Just apply for your master's and start lecturing as graduate assistant. I was not the best graduating, rather, but I was given the privileges of the best graduating student. When I told him that I don't want to be a lecturer in my school, he brought 3 offers to me, my school, Nnamdi Azikiwe University, and then one federal university in Castina. When he went for his sabbatical, he wanted me to be I said, sir, I don't think lecturing is part of my assignment. I think there is something else I need to pursue. But if I had wanted those opportunities, what would have given them to me were just clear-cut politics, not politics of come and bring this and take this. No, but there is no way you pay attention to people, give them care, show them that you actually appreciate what they are doing, that you will not drive their emotions towards also getting you to feel like they want to reciprocate. That is simple terms politics. All right. So if you want your promotion, I know the last class I said this, and someone went to his organization. He said he started showing some kind of friendliness to his perhaps to her MD and all of that, and started showing some kind of zeal to make the organization better, and started recommending some things to the organization. He said one day the MD called him. It wasn't even up to 1 week, according to her, and the MD called her and gave her 10,000 naira to appreciate her for the things she's doing. Okay, and she said the organization started paying more interest towards her by giving her more responsibilities, which meant more promotions. I just gave an example here today of a general in the Nigerian army who was promoted to a particular rank. And I will tell you what happened. The last time I was in his office, he showed me a letter he wrote, a proposal that he wrote. He began to train people, fellow soldiers and upcoming soldiers that were in camp. He was training them on emotional intelligence for free of charge. And he never expected that something would come out of there. But you know what happened? He did emotional intelligence last year, November. By last week, his promotion came. Is that not common sense politics? That's common sense politics. All right. So try to play some common sense. It pays. All right. It pays. All right. I think I've exhausted my time. And I'm